Welcome everyone, Farmer Cop here. This is going to be my top 10 tips for beginners. If you're just starting in Farming Simulator 22 or even Farming Simulator 19, this works for the most part as well. I do have a video on the Farming Simulator 19, which you guys liked quite a bit, and I've had a lot of people ask me to do one for 22. Most of these tips are the same, but I've got a couple little changes and a couple different ways I'm going to phrase some things in here. Now, again, before you guys get angry with me or anything like that, which I don't think you guys will, but just know these are what I recommend for you guys starting out. You guys might completely disagree with me, but if someone came to me, if a friend of mine came to me and said, hey, what do you recommend I start out doing? Or what tips and advice would you give me starting out in Farming Simulator 22? Well, these would be those 10 tips that I would give them. So here you go. Tip number 1, if you're going to start a game, start a new farmer mode. It does say easy here, which it didn't used to say that, but this is definitely true. Definitely start a new farmer mode. And when you go to select a map, don't download a modded map. Just start on a base game map. We can just go, it doesn't matter which one we go to. We can go to Hot Baler Own. It does not matter. Just pick a base game map. Trust me, it makes it a lot easier. And I would actually encourage you probably to do Elm Creek or Otbaileron and not Erlengrot, because Erlengrot has animals on it, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. But anyhow, so we go to Otbaileron, we hit continue, and then this actually kind of leads us into tip number 2, easy on the mods. I have only a few mods actually installed on this specific one here, but I'm going to deselect them all. We don't want any mods right now. That's going to help me as far as video goes, but yeah, we don't go easy on the mods, which I know some of you be like, well, you use mods all the time. I do, but I've been playing for a while. The reason I say easy on the mods here, I'll give you a reason for every one of my tips here. Because you are adding a lot of different pieces of equipment that you don't necessarily know how to use yet. So wait until you understand how to use all the base game equipment, then start adding stuff that's supposed to make it work for you better or change things up for you, because sometimes mods don't work or they don't do what they're supposed to do. And if you don't know how the base game equipment works, might try to use a mod that's supposed to work in a specific way that doesn't end up working that way. So yeah, that's why I recommend easy on the mods at first. All right, now that we've actually loaded into Hot Baler Own here, just a tip here. This is why I want you to start a new farm mode, because I think it helps out. You will get this icon here. Welcome to Farming Simulator. Do you like a store guided tour? We're gonna hit no for now, but if you wanted help with the game, that is a really easy way to go about it. It'll kind of give you just some very basic tips. Another reason why you want to start in new farm mode is it gives you all the equipment you need to start out. If I tab through my equipment, I've got a harvester good to go, ready to harvest a field. I've got a tractor here, the cultivator good to go, and I got a tractor over here, the seeder good to go, and I got a tractor with a trailer right over here good to go. So it gives you all just the basic stuff to get you going. It gives you a little bit of starting land. So down here we have a little bit of starting land. We have a couple of buildings here. We have a silo, we have a bunker silo, a hay loft. We have all the basics that we're going to need to get going farming. So you don't have to purchase anything right off the bat. So you don't have to use any money or try to decide what you're going to buy. It kind of gives you what you need to get into it. Now, once you do get into new farm mode, one other thing I would note here, and this is tip number 3, sell what you don't need. So, for example, on here, I'm going to go into the construction menu. The things I don't need, well, I don't actually need this bunker silo. I don't plan on doing any silage, so that is added 12,500. If you're not going to do any hay or grass work, which you're probably not right off, well, we can probably sell that. You don't have to park your vehicles in a shed, so maybe we're going to sell that. You don't have to do this necessarily. I like to park mine in the shed, so maybe you really want to do that as well. We don't need any water for anything, because you don't have to water your crops, by the way. If you're new to the game, you may not know that. But yeah, so we'll get rid of that. We'll keep our house and our silo. Those are really the only things we need. This will allow us to skip through days, and this will allow us to store our crops. Now, if you're just going to sell your crops, you can also sell that if you really want to. But I would actually encourage you to sell the house before that, because the house gives you $175,000. So if I wanted to sell that, look at that, we're already up to $325,000 in game. Another thing you can sell, if we go into the store, go down to our garage, we do not need our truck. We don't need to travel around the map quicker. We don't need that. It's unnecessary, especially since the AI worker can travel around. So what you want to do is you're going to want to take this truck and take it down right up the road here to the shop, and you're going to want to sell it off there, because you get more money if you sell it at the shop. And that's going to give you another $30,000 or so dollars. So sell what you don't need. That's tip number 3. So now that we have that taken care of, as we get into new farmer mode here, what are we going to do? Well, start off doing basic crops. Why? Well, if you're in new farmer mode, you have all the stuff to do that. So if we go over to this guy right here, this guy's going to plant, if I hook it up, this guy's going to plant down there bottom right hand corner wheat, barley, oats, canola, soy. Don't do oilseed to start off with, or grass for that matter, but sorghum, wheat, barley, oats, canola, and soy are all very easy crops to get into. They're all grain crops, and you have the equipment in your in your possession at the start of a new farmer mode game to get going with that. So that's going to make it way easier. Now, as you do start to branch out to new crops, as you get more experienced in the store, there's starter packs. So what these do is it gives you kind of an idea of what you're going to need to do those crop types, just kind of the very basics. So if you are going to start branching out, that'll help you kind of get what you need as far as that goes. Now that kind of goes on with my number 5 tip here for us, which is know what you're buying. So don't just be like, well, you know, I don't know what this does, so I'm just going to buy it. Don't do that. Now, a lot of you guys aren't going to have that issue, but sometimes some of you guys, and I've been guilty of this included, you're like, oh, that looks cool, I want to buy it. So you're just going to buy it, not knowing what it's going to do. So make sure you know what you're buying. Know what you're buying. Make sure it's something you're actually going to need. Make sure there's not a cheaper option available if money's an issue, because you're going to start making more money as you go through the game. But if you don't have the money at that time, then don't buy it. And that kind of also goes with my tip number 5 for us here as well. Don't go too big too fast. You don't need to go into harvesters and buy the biggest harvester in here or the most expensive harvester in here to harvest your crops. You can use a small harvester to start out, and then as you buy more fields and get a bigger farm and you can afford it and you're making more money, then you buy a bigger harvester. And again, you wouldn't be able to afford this anyways unless you took out a bunch of loans. So if we go into here, we can take out loans in this game. And you can borrow money in here in increments of $5,000. And I would say, as my tip number 7, avoid taking out loans if at all possible. You don't want to take out a bunch of loans, because if you get in here and you have just hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and you get this just racked up, yeah, sure, you can buy whatever you need and you're like, oh, well, I'll make the money back. You might, but if you don't know what you're necessarily doing, or you're not got a big enough farm yet, you might not have the income to be able to support that. And with a $500,000 loans, you're probably gonna be spending $10, maybe $15, $20,000 a day in loan interest alone. So just be careful with that. I'd recommend that. Now, what do you do after you get all your crops done and they're all good to go? They're waiting for them to grow. Well, you can always fast forward time to wait for them to grow or speed up the growth for them. But another thing you can do, which I'd recommend, is contracts. This is my next tip here for you. Tip number 8, do contract work. A couple reasons for that. If we go in here, go down to contracts, right here, we have contract work available for us. Contract work, easy peasy. So all we can do is we can select this, and what it's going to do, what I would do and recommend this, is borrow the items. It does reduce the amount you're going to make off the contract, but what it does, it gives you everything you need, so you know you have what you need to complete the contract, and you'll be able to go do that contract, and you might even find some different contracts in here and learn a little bit about different equipment and try out different equipment. So it allows you to try out equipment that way, which is very good for you. Very good. Very helpful as well. Now, number 9, tip number 9 here for you. Is going to be to avoid seasons at first. I'd say avoid seasons. If you're new to the game, don't try to mess with seasons right now. It doesn't add a lot to the game, but don't try to mess with it. Go down here to your settings. As a matter of fact, you should turn a lot of the stuff down here off. So you're going to want to go in here, turn seasons to no, leave days per month onto 1. I would turn snow off just to keep it simple. Turn crop destruction off, periodic plowing off, field stone off, lime off, and weeds off. Just turn all of that off to keep it as simple as possible if you're just starting out. Then just add these in one by one as you want to make it more complicated or make it more difficult for you. So you can do that. So that would be my number 9 tip for you. Number 10, my final tip, hold off on animals. Now, if we go into here, there's lots of animal pens in here, and you can make really good money using these. But first off, 75 grand at a minimum to get going, 55 at a minimum, 28 at a minimum, 26. Chickens are the cheapest at 6. You could do chickens pretty quick. But yeah, I would say avoid it, because you have to grow crops and get all that taken care of, and you have to take care of the chickens and get all that different stuff. And unless you know exactly what you're doing, I'd say hold off on that. Now, kind of my final thing I would say as I'm getting ready to wrap up this video is watch tutorial videos. Watch tutorial videos. They're going to help you out. You can, I mean, if you don't want to, obviously you don't have to, but for me, I love watching tutorial videos when I play games like this, because, well, it teaches me stuff I didn't know. Even if I figured it out myself, I might watch someone else do a tutorial video on it, and I might learn something completely new that I didn't know. I mean, I make tutorial videos for this game a lot of the time, and I still will go watch other people's tutorials because they'll cover stuff that I didn't cover. So I recommend that. It doesn't take a lot of time, and it's easier to watch a 15 or 5-minute or 10-minute tutorial video than to struggle for 4 hours trying to figure out how to get something to work and spend a bunch of money on your farm, because again, money is kind of limited. We have a lot of money now because I just took out a $500,000 loan, but again, you're going to want to be careful with that. It'll cost you a lot of money. You also can have a couple other resources in here in the game. At the very bottom, we have this book icon. I'd recommend reading through this. It's not going to take you too long to read through it, and there's a lot of useful information in here. It doesn't give you everything, but it does have quite a bit. In addition to that, Giants also has the Giants Academy, which will be linked down below in the description, which has more tutorial help for you as far as the game goes. But anyhow, guys, that is my top 10 tips for beginners that I give you to kind of get you going into the game a little bit and get you started off. If you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button up on the screen to join the Farmer Cop channel and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss any future videos I may post. This has been Farmer Cop. Thank you guys for coming and watching.